On the line with us is Forrest Wilder. He's the editor of the Texas Observer, a newspaper in Texas. The texasobserver.org is the website. You can tweet him at Forrest4Trees, F-O-R-R-E-S-T, number 4, T-R-E-E-S, Forrest4Trees, or at Texas Observer. And Forrest, welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
Great to have you with us. Do you want to quickly tell us about the Texas Observer, what it is and what you do?
Well, we're a nonprofit, public interest, progressive news magazine and website in Texas, and we've been around since 1954. Molly Ivins was our editor at one point, and Jim Hightower, and lots of other great folks have come through doing journalism in the strangest state in the union, as we call it.
There you go. Okay. So a group of libertarians decided to create the freest little city in Texas. The title of the article in the Texas Observer that I believe you wrote, right?
I was the editor on it.
Yeah, the editor. Okay. You edited. So tell us about this town. Tell us about this experiment in libertarianism that happened down in Texas.
Well, it's a little town south of San Antonio called Von Ormy. And it was unincorporated for its whole existence until about 2008, when people in town were getting nervous about San Antonio encroaching. So they started considering whether to incorporate, and the town was pretty divided about it because they were sort of resistant to having to deal with some of the things that come with being municipal government. But there was a guy in town by the name of Art Martinez Ibarra, who was a young law student, who suggested that they form something called a Liberty City. And this is basically the idea of creating a low services, low tax kind of, slimmed down version of municipal government to try to have the best of both worlds, to have some services, but also avoid some of what they viewed as, some people in town viewed as the excesses of city government, like they might have if they became part of San Antonio. So they went ahead and incorporated, and they elected Art Martinez Ibarra as mayor and the city council, and basically went to work setting up this Liberty City. And then really over the next 8 or 9 years, this thing unfolded, or I guess deteriorated might be the better word to use, and as really just was kind of a disaster. City council members were arrested for violating of the Meetings Act, and they eliminated a property tax, which left them without the ability to pay for some essential services. The police department collapsed, the fire department collapsed, and basically the Liberty City experiment, as Art Martinez Ibarra called it, ended up being kind of running amok.
So how do the libertarians explain this?
Well, it's interesting. I've heard him speak a few times, and they don't really have. He has very little to say about what went wrong. He basically just kind of describes it as a, quote, a unique experiment in democracy, and kind of talks about some of the successes. And I think to the extent that it addresses where things went, the reasons why things went haywire, kind of points fingers at some of his political opponents.
Interesting. There have. Do you know of any successful libertarian experiments anywhere in the world? I do not know of any.
It's interesting. With these articles kind of pop up from time to time, because it seems like this has been tried a number of times. I mean, there was the whole kind of floating cities thing. I'm not sure how far they got with that. There was the everyone moved to New Hampshire deal.
Right. They were going to do it with Belle Isle off Detroit.
Yeah. So they don't tend to go too well. I think because there's some utopian thinking that underlies some of the ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, the whole libertarian idea is, in my opinion, is contrary to human nature, because it assumes that, as Maggie Thatcher said, there is no such thing as society, there's only a collection of individuals, when in fact we are social animals. I mean, we're mammals. We're designed to be interdependent with each other, and the libertarian idea is that, like, the son and daughter who were the heroes of Atlas Shrugged, that if you inherit a railroad from your daddy, then you become the master of the universe, kind of thing.
Right.
Whew, amazing. Well, it's interesting that the libertarians there are at least acknowledging that maybe this is not a political theology that is practical, or are they not acknowledging? I mean, it's like Sam Brownback, right? Sam Brownback was, tried a semi-libertarian idea. He said, let's try Reaganomics here in Kansas. We will be the demonstration project for the country. Everybody will see how successful we are. He cut taxes radically, including presumably taxes on the Koch brothers, or at least the one who lives there in Kansas. I think it's Charles. And it was an absolute unmitigated disaster for Kansas. So bad that Donald Trump had to bail him out by giving them the post of ambassador to the world's religions. It's like,
Right.
Talk about a low place to be caught as you're falling. Go ahead.
Well, I will say that so the Liberty City model is not actually in statute. So this guy, the founder of the town and the mayor, became a chief of staff to a libertarian-leaning senator, and as chief of staff, he and his boss proposed legislation to kind of make it part of just a formal type of Texas city government, and the bill went nowhere. I think there's not a huge appetite for it, at least at the city level, for doing this, replicating this in other places.
Right. So he was attaching himself to a state senator. So
yeah,
just as an observer, it seems to me that the cities, and for that matter, even the small towns in the United States, that are the most progressive, that have strong infrastructure, that have that tax themselves enough that they can actually provide high quality education, that they can keep the streets pothole free, that they develop the advanced kinds of infrastructure, new alternative energy sources, a high-speed broadband, things like that. Chattanooga, a great example of this, civic broadband. That those are the cities that are really booming, that they're really bringing people in, and the cities that are going the more of a libertarian/Republican route of being extremely minimalist in what they're offering are the cities that are dying. Is that does your experience? I mean, you live in Texas. There's a lot of towns in Texas. Does your observation comport with mine?
Well, I mean, pretty much every major city in Texas is run by, they're nonpartisan, but they're basically Democrats and progressives. And I would say the number one political theme of the moment in the state government and the legislature is the Republican legislature and governor attacking cities. In fact, we had a lieutenant governor just over the weekend say that all of the country's problems, all of Texas's problems, are concentrated in cities because they're run by Democrats. Peculiar thing to say when 80% of the state is actually Texas is urban, and most of the economic activity and growth and people moving here, they're moving to the cities. Rural Texas, in many cases, is kind of stagnant and troubled at the moment.
Did you just say that 80% of the population of Texas lives in cities?
Lives in urban areas, so basically metro areas.
Wow,
that's correct.
That kind of runs contrary to the stereotype of Texas as being rural and somewhat reactionary.
Well, we have the largest rural population of any state, so it is big. But it's a huge state. It's 28 million people, and most people live in Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, the metro areas, and the surrounding suburbs.
Right.
So Texas is an urban state, absolutely.
Right. Fascinating stuff. And finally, we're talking with Forrest Wilder, the editor of the Texas Observer, the website texasobserver.org. You can tweet him at Forrest4Trees. Finally, Forrest, any word about these libertarians who screwed up the Liberty City thing, trying to do it again?
Well, I believe there's an estimate of 10 Liberty cities total in Texas. So there has been some replication, but I don't think that it's really caught fire beyond just a handful of really small towns. And like I said, efforts to kind of expand it by making it a formal type of city government in Texas, that hasn't really gone anywhere. So I don't think there's a huge appetite for it. And perhaps this is a sort of object lesson in what can go wrong, what happened in Von Army.
Yeah, you think? Forrest Wilder, the editor of the Texas Observer. Thanks for sharing with us, Forrest. Great talking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.